For centuries, people have seen mysterious creatures on the ocean's waves. But some of the strangest reports of cryptids happened under the water. From the Bahamas to the Mariana Trench come reports of bizarre unknown species. These are the cryptids of the deep sea. The Bahamas are often seen as a premier spot for tourism and diving. But during one dive in 1968, Bruce Monier came face to face with a terrifying creature. He recounts his sighting in the Bermuda Triangle book, Without a Trace. We were south of Great Isaac Light, near the drop-off. I was looking at the bottom while I was being trolled along on a line behind a 30-foot boat built especially for diving and salvage work. I could see a sandy bottom at 35 to 40 feet. I was deep enough to see ahead of the boat, and some sort of round turtle or big fish, about 200 pounds, became visible, and I went lower to get a good look. It turned and looked at me at a 20-degree angle. It had a monkey's face with its head protruding out in front, and a much longer neck than a turtle, 4 or more times the length of a human neck. It rotated its neck like a snake as it watched me. The eyes were like those of a human being, but enlarged. It looked like the face of a monkey with specially adapted eyes for underwater vision. When it got a good look at me, it took off, using some form of propulsion that came from underneath. I've caught and sold hundreds of turtles, and this was definitely not one. I think it is some unidentified species. It may be a newly developed one, or a very old one we haven't seen before. Luckily for Bruce, he was unharmed as the animal had swam away into a nearby cave. He nicknamed it the Underwater Abominable Snowman. This would be the first and last time this cryptid was seen, so far. Clams range from anywhere between pocket size to 4.5 or 1.3 meters. But some Australian reports mention clams that are large enough to swallow a person whole. In the Great Barrier Reef, divers who reached the deeper areas of the sea came across clams 2 to 3 times larger than the world record clam. It was rumored that divers who accidentally swam within the clam's reach would be swallowed whole. Thankfully, these seem to just be rumors, as nobody specifically is ever said to have been eaten by one. That's not to say that there aren't any concrete sightings, however. An associate of Joseph Banks once happened upon a massive dead clam in the reef. He decided to climb inside of it for whatever reason, and was easily able to fit inside. Another giant clam was reported to Captain George Heath, who managed the ports of Queensland, Australia. This one was said to be 14 feet or 4 meters in length. Unfortunately, the massive size and weight of these clams made it difficult to dredge them up. Based on the weight of the currently largest known clams, these would be around 1 ton or 900 kilograms. These reports were seemingly common in the late 1800s and early 1900s, but the cryptid hasn't been seen in many decades. In 1960, human history was made. A submersible vehicle reached the Challenger depth for the first time. This vehicle, the Trieste, was crewed by Jacques Picard and Don Walsh. The Challenger depth is the deepest part of the ocean in the Mariana Trench, over 35,000 feet or 10,500 meters deep. While they were down there, Picard spotted something strange on the ocean floor. It was a small flat fish, something he compared to a soul. Weirdly, despite how incredibly dark it was that far down, he said it had eyes. It was about 1.5 feet or 45 centimeters in length. After a while, it swam out of sight. Now, this sighting is a bit odd for 2 reasons. 1, the animal had eyes. An animal that lives that far down would probably never see light in its entire life. Picard speculated that maybe it had evolved eyes to see bioluminescent animals. but he himself was questioning why it had eyes. The second thing that makes the sighting odd is that he claims he saw a fish. Scientists Alan Jameson and Paul Yancey did an entire paper on why this is unlikely. You see, there hasn't been a single fish seen even close to as deep as the Trieste fish was. They theorized that this is because fish simply can't survive the pressure of the deep sea. Fish have something called osmolytes that prevent outside pressures from messing with the fish's internal system. Past a certain point, the osmolytes can't hold up, and a fish has to turn back. The two calculated that the maximum depth a fish could go to was only about 8,500 meters or 28,000 feet. This is backed up by other deep-sea expeditions which haven't seen any fish that deep. Whether or not it's even possible for a fish to exist that far down, there are other reasons to doubt the cryptid's existence. Don Walsh stated that the viewing conditions were, understandably, very poor. The submersible had stirred up a lot of debris that made it hard to see. He also added that since he and Picard weren't biologists, it's possible Picard misidentified whatever he saw. Some believe that what he saw was actually a sea cucumber. This technically wasn't the only alleged cryptid sighting in the Mariana Trench. In the early 2000s, a Russian newspaper reported that a Japanese team had also encountered something strange in the depths. They weren't quite as deep as the Trieste sighting, being only about 5,000 feet or 1,500 meters down. The team had released some chum into the water in order to attract sharks, but something else found them instead. A massive serpent 200 feet or 60 meters in length began swimming towards them. The sharks, seemingly in fear of this massive creature, swam away. Of course, the only source for this story is that Russian newspaper. To my knowledge, no other source, especially Japanese sources, ever reported on the story. The creature was also supposedly filmed, and as you can guess, that was never released either. In 1940, the SS Thistlegorm was sunk by a German bomber plane. 15 years later, famous oceanographer Jacques Cousteau supervised a dive into the wreck. While down there, the crew saw a bizarre pair of fish with fangs. The larger one was about 14 feet or 4 meters long. Because of the immense size of the fish, they were nicknamed truckfish. The crew theorized that the fish were humphead wrasses, but that species only grows to about half the size of the fish they saw. Jacques Cousteau had a couple cryptid sightings of his own as well. One came while he was diving with a cook named Emile Robert near the Seychelles. Robert had reported seeing a fish that was covered in red and white squares like a checkerboard. Of course, nobody else believed him, especially since they had been diving for weeks and were tired. Robert tried and failed to find the fish again, leading to the other divers joking that he hadn't gotten enough oxygen. One day, Cousteau and Robert were diving when a flurry of bubbles came from Robert's mask. Cousteau turned and saw Robert wildly pointing. There was the exact fish he had described, about 3 inches or 7.5 centimeters in length. According to Cousteau, none of the marine biologists he talked to knew what it was. In another encounter, Cousteau was in the FNRS-3, a submersible vehicle, off the coast of Toulon, France. At about 3,300 feet or 1,000 meters deep, Cousteau saw a sight nobody had ever seen before. It was a triangle-shaped fish, about 20 inches or 50 centimeters long, and as thin as aluminum foil. Cousteau also said that it had an extremely small tail. He would only get a brief look at it before a squid darted past and obscured his vision. Like many in this video, this is seemingly the last time anybody has seen this cryptid. During a deep-sea expedition in 1984, the ship Sayana captured a large animal on camera. They were near a hydrothermal vent when they took this photo of a sirate, a type of octopus. This sirate was about 8 feet or 2.5 meters in length, which is 40% larger than any known species of sirate. Unfortunately, sirates are also known for being hard to catch due to fragile bodies. So they were only able to take a photo of the animal, and it has yet to be captured for physical proof. Bernard Heuvelmans thought it may point to a giant species of octopus living in the Atlantic, even though the photo was taken in the Pacific. Sirates have hair-like bumps all over their body, and giant octopus reports in the Atlantic sometimes describe them as hairy. So Heuvelmans thought this was evidence that these reports could be real. In 1980, diver Jean Cooney was swimming in the English Channel near the Glennin Islands of France. There he spotted a rare and rather weird armored fish. He said it was about 3 feet or 1 meter in length, and that it had large scales that resembled armor. Weirdly, the animal was said to end in a point without a tail, and it also had a beak. This is one of the rare fish cryptids seen in Europe, and it also hasn't been seen since. I really enjoy deep-sea cryptids since they range from bizarre creepy animals to small but mysterious ones like the Trieste fish. If you liked this one, make sure you've seen the first video I did on deep-sea cryptid encounters as well. A big thank you to Robert Woodard, Breadbox, Nemoralis, and Tim Morris, who all did some artwork in this video. I'll have a document that shows them and a bunch of Cryptid Artists' work below. Another huge shoutout to my Patreons Gerhard, Timothy, Wildworld, Chaz, Mackindude, Ben, Jason Cook, and John R. If you'd like to support me on Patreon and get input into future videos along with sneak peeks, a link will be below. If you enjoyed this video, please share it around, like, and subscribe. That's all for this video. Thank you very much for the support, and I'll see you in the next one.